and college sports. My name is Bobby Robinson, or everyone knows me on socials as CRG Bear. And today I have CJ, who's been with us most of the show, but we actually have a special guest, one of my closest friends that I've met just being down in the Missouri area. His name is Keegan Hartman. Keegan, welcome to the show, buddy.
Yeah, glad to be on. Thanks for having me, man.
Alrighty, so
excited.
today's conversation, boys. We haven't, obviously, Connor, I haven't spoke to you in weeks, so it's good to see you again, seeing that you're healthy and, not stressing out about, COD or work. But, but we have some topics. We have, obviously, tomorrow the Dallas Mavericks face the Boston Celtics off in the NBA Finals. We have some major news that's been transpiring off in the NFL with Justin Jefferson resetting the wide receiver position for highest paid non-QB in the league history, and as well as you seeing Christian McCaffrey getting his check as well. And then there's obviously some storm going around with the college football playoffs being announced. The 12, what is it, 12 playoff teams that's going to be entering.
Right.
So let's start with NBA, because that's the closest event coming up. The game starts tomorrow. Boys, what do you guys feel about Dallas? What do you guys feel about Boston? Just this finals in general, based on, how everything played out, in the NBA playoffs, that sort of thing.
Keegan, put you on the spot. You start.
Okay. Well, I think for starters, look, I think the Dallas Mavericks, this is going to be more important. I know you can make the case, obviously, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have tried to make it to a top of the mountain, and try as they might, they always get stumped. I would much rather love to see a tandem like Kyrie and Luka accrue their first championship. And really, it just boils down to, kind of the road that they've taken as well. Obviously, they went through OKC, who was a number one seed. They just got off of a Western Conference Finals against the Minnesota Timberwolves, who were the number one defense in the NBA at the time. Now it is the Boston Celtics. Obviously, Kyrie makes a return to Boston for the first time in a long time. There's a lot of parity. There's a lot of interest and intrigue in this series in general. But, right out the gate, I would love to see Dallas finally win a championship in something. I think it'd be nice to, obviously, if you keep up with the NHL.
That definitely, I think that was a small little, stab to the Dallas Cowboys for finally winning something.
Maybe not, but
Damn.
even the Dallas Stars, getting knocked out by the Edmonton Oilers in the NHL. Now the Edmonton Oilers are going on to play the Florida Panthers in the Stanley Cup Finals. Look, man, I really want to see Luka get one. It would excite me. He's one of the most electrifying players. Obviously, you'll have your arguments for Boston. Jason Tatum, yes, I get it. I mean, I've seen the guy grow up. He played in St. Louis, so I'm familiar with his game and I'm familiar with his story. But man, I'm really hoping that Luka can pull this out and company. But it's gonna be a very interesting series, and I think it'll make for a great parity and great interest.
There's storylines for me I want to tie in. There's storylines in this that ties in with so many things. You have, the Celtics and Kyrie, and if Kyrie's going to stomp on that leprechaun in the middle of the circle in the Garden again, you have, you have so many different stories, but I feel like the biggest story, not even just, Kyrie winning his championship, Luka winning his first, but the story that a lot of people don't recognize is that this is it'll be a storybook moment for Luka, more so because of the fact that his home club, Real Madrid, just won the Champions League over in UEFA. And that's, if you know anything about Luka, Luka was picked up by Real Madrid when he was, 15, 14 years old, and was dominating at an early stage. So it would definitely be a storybook ending for Luka if not only he wins an NBA title, but his home club, who's already just won the Champions League. That's not talked about enough in America, because obviously soccer is not as big here outside of when Messi came over. But it's just it's definitely, I feel like that significance of just I feel like with him already achieving what he's done in Europe and him doing this, he can definitely be in an arguable debate for a top 5 player in the game or in history.
Just say he's a top 5 fucking player and quit beating around the bush.
No.
Just say it, damn it.
If he wins, it's definitely in conversation. If he wins this championship, you have to put it in conversation, just like you have to put in another. And people be like, "Oh, top five player in history." Well, yes, because you don't see too many European players come over and do what he has done.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you can say Dirk.
Mediate that.
Tony P. Who else? Come on, give me somebody.
Top 5 all time is stretch. The man's not even halfway through his career.
Okay, he said he's stretch. Oh, fair.
You're stretching.
You know what? Okay, FIFA is different than the NBA. It's a lot of more tough ball. You're not gonna get a whole bunch of crybabies over there in the EU. It's a different ball game. You can't tell me all these other players can go over and hoop. Why did we go bronze then? Because we had some NBA talent. Why did we go bronze this year?
Well, Braun got eliminated in the first round. I'm not worried about LeBron.
Okay, fair enough.
Braun's been in fucking Cancun for 2 weeks. I don't care about Braun.
You said Cancun. All right.
So here's what we got going on. So I think personally Boston had the easiest run to the NBA Finals in history. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about this, right? First round, Boston plays a beat-up Miami team, right? Jimmy Butler gets injured in Game 3, cakewalk. Miami was never going to – they won revenge from last year because Miami beat them last year to go to the finals. They wanted that revenge, right? Then they go against a good Cleveland team, a young, athletic, tall, lanky team, right? What happens? Donovan Mitchell gets injured, their number 1 player. Now Donovan Mitchell's the best shooting guard in the NBA. Now everybody wants him, right? Then they play Indiana, who I think New York Knicks should have beaten Indiana personally. New York was more talented and had better shooters, right? Indiana could not keep up at all with Boston. And Boston was ready to go. So Boston smokes all 3 of them, makes it. Now let's go to Dallas' side. I like all 3 with you with Luka on this. Even though I'm a Hawks fan, and I like Luka to death, right? Who do they beat the first round? They beat a potential MVP in James Harden, a guy who should be retiring. I don't know. I love him to death. Paul George, you need to go, brother. It's been you're pulling by your teeth by a nail right now. Time to go.
Oh my God, are you hating?
Man, when you're 38 years old and you can't make it past the first round of the playoffs 4 years in a row, it's time for you to hit sticks.
It's not just his fault.
That's just how it is, man. You're getting paid $21 million a year to sit the bench for 35 games and then get first rounded. How you feel about that?
But you can say the same thing about Embiid, though. Fair enough.
I did say that, but Embiid got in first round too. Embiid he's in Cancun as well with LeBron. They're having a party together. They're drinking fucking liquor and drinking his damn tequila brand Los Amigos and having a great time. So that's who they beat. So right, they beat LAC first round. Then they come back and they beat arguably the best team in the NBA, Denver Nuggets, right? The defending champions, right? They shut them the hell out. Made Nikola Jokic go back to horse racing in his home country, which he apparently likes more than playing basketball. And then who they beat? They defeated the defensive player of the year, Rudy Gobert, right? And Michael, we were talking about this.
Hold on, freeze. That was rigged. I'm going to say this now. Rudy Gobert is not the defensive player of the year.
The dude's 7'1". What do you mean not the defensive player of the year?
I'm sorry. I can name 4 people who should have won that award this year over him.
Who should have?
First and foremost, give him credit. Even though he had a losing record, Victor Wembanyama deserved that fucking defensive player of the year. Get out of here.
He's a rookie.
I don't care. Do you see the stats that he put up? Nah. Come on, with a beat-up team, he didn't have no help. Zero help. Nobody.
Spurs were hot booty cheeks. Maybe if they won some games, they would actually do something. When you lose fucking 60 games a year, of course no one's watching you.
I want to you kind of spark something, CJ. So you go back to the Denver and the Minnesota series, Game 7. Right. They're up by 23. I think they eclipsed 23 coming out of half. And then there's kind of that defensive. Minnesota turned it up in the blink of an eye.
They couldn't do anything. They couldn't make a shot. Nothing.
Made them one-dimensional, almost to the point. Let's go to the same strategy. We're not, instead of. I believe they had said it in the halftime analysis. Let Nikola Jokic or let Jamal, set the screen and let Jokic drive. And I think instead they were doing the let Jokic set the screen. Jamal's going to try to find a shot, and they just couldn't get anything generated offensively with their 3-point shooting. They go on these tangents where they think they can get back into a game with 3-point shooting, and that's where the Timberwolves ate them up. But honestly, when you look at their defense, what what was that a culmination of? How do you intentionally just give up 23 like that? I think that I have a point to bridge it to our finals conversation because Boston is the number one defense going into this series. So, I mean, Dallas could be running into these instances where they have extensive leads and Boston can still capitalize. They're not out of it.
Here's my, this is all I have to say about this upcoming series. I feel like personally, we're definitely going to see 6 games. I'm going to say 4-2 Dallas.
That's fair.
Respectfully, I'm going to say 4-2 Dallas. And here's the reason why I'm going to say 4-2 Dallas is because right now, you got to, and here's something that I think, yes, we could talk about Luka, but one person I feel like put a catalyst on this Dallas team is fucking PJ Washington.
Amen.
If he comes up and plays like he has been playing these playoffs, I'm telling you, PJ is definitely going to show up. If he shows up, Dallas is winning 4-2. That's a catalyst. The way he's been balling. I'm
going to bring a counter to this. What if I don't think PJ is the reason why they win this? I think it's Derek Lively.
Ooh.
If Derek Lively is healthy, it's a wrap. Look what he did against Minnesota. He's a lob threat. They had no answer. They had 2 7-footers. They still couldn't figure it out. How many ball screens did they switch? They put freaking Jaden McDaniels on Derek Lively, and he was just dunking on their heads. And he had fucking 19 and 6 at half. A rookie. This is a first year in the league. They can't stop that. And so Keegan's point, if you switch up that's all that Dallas did against Minnesota. They did switches, right? They made you have to guard this. Dallas is a mismatch nightmare. I don't think Boston's ready for that. Jaylen Brown can only play so much defense. Jason Tatum is not a great defender. Kristaps Porzingis is not healthy. Derek White is it Derek White and Jaylen Brown got to play defense? Who else is Drew Holiday? They don't really have any shooters. Dallas has got Derrick Jones Jr. They got Tim Hardaway off the bench. They got Jaden Hardy. They got Luka Doncic. They got Kyrie Irving. These are people that are defensive first, shooting next. Think about that for a second.
Wow. You think about. I think it's even more simplified, gentlemen. I mean, you talk about Washington, you talk about Lively, but I mean, I guess even through the first series against OKC, we didn't see Kyrie come alive, and then he turns up against Minnesota, and he has 30, 33, 35.
Pulling from deep three and just with ease.
Yeah, and wow, it was literally an entire 180.
This is like Cleveland Kyrie.
Yeah.
In 2016.
Yes, and that's scary. But how much do you think going into Boston and having that sort of rapport with that team?
Ooh, they're gonna hate your ass. They're gonna call you so many racial slurs that they're gonna start to bleeping them out on live TV.
Boston is notorious for that. They're one of the more.
They are not happy with you. This is like Dennis Rodman headed into Miami. They're not gonna like you.
Yeah,
but you're right. That's a good point, Keegan. I didn't think about that.
I don't know how you kind of sustain this track record of consistency going into hostile territory and knowing it all too well.
But here's the thing. You also can put in, the thing is, it has been done against the Garden with 2 stars prior. 2 stars who we know who's shut out in Game 6s in the Garden. The recent person who just done it was Stephen Curry shutting out Boston in the Garden. Mm-hmm. Then you have to think about the last person who did it before him was Kobe shutting out Boston in the Garden. So it's very feasible. Very feasible.
You're going a little too far back. I was going to say.
Well, Kobe did close him out.
You know who I would say even worse?
In the Garden.
Remember the Spurs from 09 and 08?
San Antonio, yeah.
San Antonio was even worse. San Antonio was fucking lethal. Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan, Boris Diaw. That is
God.
Name one player who there could shoot more than 30% from 3. They didn't shoot.
Tim Duncan's not in the top 5.
Exactly. What?
Said Timmy D is not the top 5.
He's not top 5, but he's one of the top 3 power forwards that's ever played the game.
Okay. Gross.
He's not top 5 because what you just said earlier, I'm going to call you out. You said Luka Doncic is a top 5 player.
So I got my 5. I can give you my 5 right now.
We talked about this on 4 podcasts ago. I already know it.
That's a very.
3 of them. I gave you my top 3.
But you changed it though. Okay. So for the viewers who haven't seen it, refresh your top 5.
Hey, real quick, just a disclaimer: if you don't put Nikola Jokic over Luka Doncic for your top 5 all-time players, I'm sorry.
He gave you an ultimatum. That's tough.
That's the most blasphemous.
That's tough.
No.
In the wise words of Stephen A., I think I still have the sound.
That is blasphemous.
Jeez, it's blasphemous. Anyway, carry on. Sorry.
Now you've been put on the spot.
Top 5.
You better put Jokic in there.
Of all time, you're about to be ridiculed by two different people now, not just me.
Of all time, okay.
Okay, let's hear it. You don't have to do it in order.
Oh, no order?
No order.
Kobe,
I'll make it easier
Shaq.
on you.
Kobe
Okay.
and Shaq is definitely definitely there. I would have to say Timmy D, Tim Duncan.
He's such a 2000s baby.
What the? You're a boomer. You're a boomer.
I'm a '90s kid.
I love 90s kids.
He's a
All right.
2000s child.
Oh my
Luka?
god. This is not
Number
good.
4,
Huh?
and then 5, MJ.
You put.
We're not. Nope.
MJ's
Nope.
in the top 5.
You know what?
I
Come
just
on,
couldn't see anything. Like, I'm sorry. My closest replica of MJ was Kobe. I'm sorry.
Do you put the person, his predecessor, above him?
Yes. Do you understand? I'm sorry to say. Did
Disrespect
you
to
ever
MJ.
see
Michael
Afro
Jefferson
Kobe?
doesn't watch this podcast.
Did you ever see Afro Kobe? Number 8. Did you see number 8? Ever play?
I was probably like 5 years old, so yes. This was probably the
Okay,
early
when you-
2000s. Because I remember he was drafted when I was born.
Put some respect on Kobe's name. Y'all just disrespect.
I didn't say. Okay, make this very clear. Keegan and I didn't say anything bad about you. We're reacting to what your list is because it's a little bit. It's current generation. What about your Bill Russells? What about your John Stocktons? What about your Hakeem Olajuwons?
For me, like,
Don't forget
it's,
Julius
like,
Erving.
Here's
What
the
about
thing.
Julius
I'm going
Erving?
off of my top 5. When I say I physically seen them be dominant, I've never seen MJ play outside of the highlights.
That's fair.
You didn't-
That's fair. That's
Yeah, but
fair.
all
Because I
time.
always. No. That's fair though. Of his time. I mean, I guess you could technically
Like,
say
cause
his
like
time.
here's the thing. Like, if I would have physically watched MJ to the point like my dad did, I would be saying MJ is the GOAT. The closest person I see win 5 rings
Yeah.
when I was alive was Kobe and Tim Duncan. That's
You're just
it.
like
You
all
see
my
what I'm
friends.
saying? Like-
You're grandfathered into opinion. I mean, I get that. People will say I've got my YouTube and I can watch Michael Jordan highlights, but never really got to see the player that he was, and that's why I always take into account and not. I guess not. I don't even know what the word
Don't
is.
get me
but-
wrong. I respect those players. I'm not saying like if I had a top 75, it would definitely be harder than what they chose.
Yeah,
You know
we don't
what I
got
mean?
time
But
for
it's just-
75 players. Let's not
Yeah,
do that.
no.
No,
This
I'm
is-
not going
this
through
is taking
75.
five
I said if
fucking
I
hours.
have
Not
one,
doing
it will be definitely difficult because there has been some great athletes, but at the same time, you have to consider like
What do I have to
for
consider?
me, like I physically like I haven't seen any other powerhouse duo like Kobe and Shaq ever. I'm sorry. I don't care. Everyone keeps saying
I'm
backcourt
gonna give you
duo.
one comparison.
Outside of like probably Stephen Curry and goddamn Klay Thompson, who was
I
really
wasn't even
elite.
mentioning that either. I'm going to give you a more powerful duo.
Who?
Dwayne Wade and LeBron James.
Yeah, good point. He's gonna vomit.
You almost made me pull out the bucket on you. You say LB.
LeBron. Let me slow it down for you. LeBron
I'd rather-
James and Dwayne Wade.
If you say LeBron James, I'll say Carmelo and Allen Iverson was a better duo than them two.
Allen
No,
Iverson.
they weren't. As a
What?
Nuggets fan, I resent that. Carmelo Anthony, he's not worthy of even wearing 15. Nikola Jokic is he's not
Damn!
even worthy of wearing 15.
He's a Jokic
Oh,
fan.
man, you
We're
say you're
tra-
not worthy of wearing 15?
Trash.
That's crazy.
Trash ass
God.
basketball player.
That is tough.
That's tough. All right.
That is
all right.
tough.
Not a top 10 basketball player all time.
Wait. You're...
Carmelo Anthony is not a top 10 basketball player of all time. I will die on that hill. Top
hard is
15.
that, dude?
Top 15, not top 10.
Okay, I can
Thanks
agree
for
with
coming to the
top 15, but not top 10. I would agree with that.
Okay. But anyway, that's besides the point. I'm sorry, guys. Tangent there.
No, you're good. You're good.
Right now.
All right, guys. So let's wrap this up. We all agree that.
Wait. Let Keegan and I
What's the vote? I
We're
want
gonna
to
do
hear you
three-
guys' prediction. What's your vote?
Keegan,
on
go
the
first and
NBA
I'll go
Finals?
last. And we'll transition.
Mavs in 6. Kid
I'm
gets
gonna
it
make.
one.
I like that. I'm gonna make a very bold prediction right here. I think Mavs steal game 1 in Boston, lose game 2. I got Mavs in 7.
Okay. I like that.
That's a 7. All right. I'm gonna say this because I did say 4-2, which is probably fair, but like I don't want to just.
Are you about to double down on your own take and redo it?
PJ Washington shows up. It's 4-2.
This guy's like, wait a second. Let me logically think about this.
PJ Washington shows up, it's 4-2. If it doesn't, I can say Game 7 as well. I don't think I see Game 6 or Game 7, but PJ Washington is a catalyst to me because if he shows up like he did last series, oh man.
I feel like they shut down Luka in Game 1.
That's prevalent, but there should be a double standard if you're going to go ahead and say the third guy has to show up. Who is X guy? If it's PJ for Dallas, though, I impose one final question to my colleagues here. Who is it for Boston?
Drew.
Who's the third guy?
I'm so glad you said that.
Who's
Drew.
the third guy?
Drew Holiday. I'm so glad he said it.
Holiday, he has everything to prove
100%
right
agree with
now.
that.
Like he's more than anybody on that
100%
Boston
agree.
team that has something to prove. He got pushed over off of a Bucks championship team. He has everything to prove right now.
So what does this say? I mean, okay, I guess I am not caught up with everything to prove for Drew. And I know Drew is a great basketball player. I mean, even watching him at Milwaukee and everything. But I guess I don't really kind of know the predicament he's in. He's obviously got 2 All-Stars. He's got to be used to that playing with Middleton and Giannis on that Bucks team.
He's a very
like,
pesky on ball defender.
Is that he wasn't the reason why the Bucks was never successful, and Drew kind of got the stiff end because the Bucks organization never told Drew that they was giving up on him. He basically got told overnight that he was leaving the organization. So I feel like when he got sent over to Boston, he's had everything to prove on why he's still.
Do you know why he got sent to Boston though?
Why?
He wanted more money. So they were willing to pay him. So guess who they got instead? They go out to Portland like, you know what? If you can't shoot and you don't want to play defense, we're going to get a guy who can shoot. So what does Milwaukee do? They get the best shooter possible in free agency. They go get Damian Lillard. Then Boston's like, hey, we need no more defenders. We already have Derek White. Derek White's one of the best defenders in the NBA. Okay, bring Drew Holiday. Let's get you a two-handed tandem. Remember, Jalen Ball was the primary ball guy for the last 2 years, right? They moved him to a shooting guard role because he sucks with the on-ball. We both know. Both watched the finals last year. He can't handle the ball worth shit. They get a guy who can handle the ball and who can play on-ball defense. And he won them Game 5 in Indianapolis by getting a steal. By guess who? Andrew Nembhard. They bring a rookie up the floor with the ball. He steals the ball. They win the game. And we all 3 of us watched that. Indiana had 3 chances to win a game. They should have beat Boston 4-1. They could not close out games. Boston can close out. So that's the X factor. But let's transition to the next topic.
Yes.
Alrighty. Okay, so let's talk about college football, boys. Now, I'm blank here, but I've been hearing all this story about the college football playoffs, and I just want you guys' prediction on how you guys see that those 12 teams that's coming up.
Keegan sounds like he's got something ready to go.
I am so glad you asked this. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now that the format is being expanded, and the traditional 4 teams that we've now got 12 entering the chat. And now with all the, as I like to self-proclaim it, as the Power 5 conference gerrymandering or gerrymandering, you know how they've, in politics or in world history, you learn about the term gerrymandering, where they cut up certain jurisdictions to gain more votes. This is kind of the same thing with what we're seeing in Power 5 college football. You're going into the Pac-12 is now the Pac-2, 2-pack, and then you got the Big 10, the Big 12, SEC, ACC, but there's so much movement going on. It's really predicated on the state of NIL and the state of the transfer portal. And, you're seeing talent. It is insane how competitive each of these conferences are going to be heading into the fall. I personally think the SEC is going to make up nearly 50% of the playoff picture as they expand to 12. They're also including Oklahoma and Texas in the SEC this year. That's going to make for a way better and more entertaining conference. But I'm biased. I'm a Mizzou grad. So, hey, I think my team's going to make a playoff, so I don't give a damn about anybody else. As long as we get home field and we're there, who cares? I'll go kick Oklahoma's ass. I'll go kick Texas's ass. I won't kick Alabama's because I know they're better than us, and Georgia too. But honestly, from my perspective, I think that this is going to be a very entertaining thing. We're going to get football until like late January as far as the championship goes. But it's going to be entertaining to watch as it expands to 12, and it's home field. There's no neutral site. So there you go.
So I guess I'll add a little more context for the viewers out there. And Keegan, I'm an Alabama grad, so I understand.
Okay.
So the way that it works, Roll Tide, is the first. So every conference winner gets an automatic bid. So ACC, Big 10, Big 12, ACC. So that's 4 seeds right away. The way that works, if you win your conference, you get an automatic bye in the first round. So that means 5 through 12, there's 7 teams left, battled out to get out there. And I'm going to guess they're going to put a G5 team in. A G5 is like a Tulane in North Texas, a team that you don't expect to go in, but wins 13 games and thrives, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I do agree to your point. It's going to mean that college football begins the last week in August all the way till the third week in January. That every single week somebody will be playing. I don't agree that we wait 10 days for a national championship game. I don't want to play a natty on a Monday. That drives me fucking nuts. But they want to get viewership. I understand it. We're maybe toward the kind of the tail end of the NFL season and the beginning of the NBA season.
Mm-hmm.
I know Bobby's a huge Colorado fan, and he hates when I talk about Alabama. But I want to just share this respectfully. I think Colorado has a similar record, but wins one more game this year. They were 4-8 last year. I think they go 5-7, and that's an improvement.
Yeah.
I could talk crap, but like your offensive line looks like a bunch of jello. Your defensive line looks like they're blind, and your secondary can't guard a wide receiver more than 10 yards off the ball. But that's not true because Colorado improved the transfer portal. The biggest thing you learn about college and in the transfer portal is you add depth.
Mm-hmm.
You already got starters there. You recruit people, so you got people that are behind you, but now you have depth. So you bring people that have already played or have had snaps, right? So you bring exposure and experience. Those are teachers. But to your point, I know Bobby hates when I say this. I feel like Colorado's the only team this year that's going to get all the media hype, but they're going to hit a brick wall when they play some of these hard Big Ten schools like your Ohio States, your USC's, and it gets real hard, and you're like down 15 at halftime, and it's like, oh shit, my quarterback's been sacked 5 times, and he's fatigued, and you need to go back with quarterback. But
correct me if I'm wrong. They relocated to the Big 12, correct?
They are in the Big 12, so they're with your Houstons, they're with your UCFs, they're with your TCUs, they're with Texas Tech.
That's way better than Big 10. Although I don't know how many non-con they'll play.
If you don't win more than 4 games, I'm going to have a serious debacle with you half of the year. That's the moral story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that statement 100%. Bobby, did you have something to add about your Colorado
I feel like you want to say something.
I'm just, want to say the famous quote, we coming. That's all I'm going to say. I feel like we're in a good position. I would say reasonable enough, I do think that we will definitely improve the season. I'm not going to say it's going to be a 5-7 as you predict. I do feel like, if anything, we do finally hit the 500 mark at bare minimum. We go 500 this season. I'm saying that. That's a confident statement. I'm not saying we're going to hit a bowl game. I'm just saying I feel like we will.
Well, if you get 6 wins, you automatically qualify for a bowl.
Yeah, the Boca Raton or something outdoor.
They're going to play the Cheesy Bowl in North Carolina.
Yeah, the Cheesy Bowl.
Oh man, I'd rather just not have a bowl game. We just might as well just take our.
But you want media exposure, right? Deion Sanders is all about your media exposure. Go get media exposure.
I got a
sold
conspiracy.
out all of his games already. What media exposure? He's a walking billboard, dog.
I got a conspiracy theory about the whole Deion Sanders thing. I think that this year is going to be the last year of Mike McCarthy with the Dallas Cowboys. And I think that with Dak Prescott's contract being up, that's also going to usher a different direction in the quarterback position. What does this mean for Deion Sanders going forward? Reuniting with the old organization that gave him a chance in the first place when he first came into the NFL. Taking the job as the head coach for the Dallas Cowboys, and Shedeur Sanders becoming the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys in 2025. How does that happen? I don't know. We got a year to figure it out, but I don't think Deion Sanders is with the program after this year, especially with how much he's culturalized and grown the culture. I mean, even that in and of itself is a cash cow. Now, I know it's a different story with the NFL, and Deion's openly said that he could never coach in the NFL. It's kind of different for him. But money talks, man. And I know that he's got his certain perspectives and views on money and whatnot, but I'm certain that if he wanted to see if he could stay with his kid in some capacity, Shedeur or Shiloh, or both of them for that matter, I could very well see him making the transition to the NFL and coaching in some capacity. Maybe not head coach, could be offense or defensive coordinator, but I could see it going to the Dallas Cowboys. I think that could happen quick. So
you think that Dallas would take the monetary, they would buy out his contract in Colorado, and he would go to Dallas?
I think he has it. Yeah.
Well, you think about it, Jerry
God,
was
that's
bought out of his
brutal.
contract before.
That would piss off an entire fucking fan base right there.
It would, but then you wonder, what does that mean for Colorado going
That's what I'm
forward?
saying. Like, you changed
Yeah,
the whole...
you probably see more hate from like the time like Oklahoma City started burning KD jerseys. They will burn Prime jerseys.
I don't think they're going to burn it. It's like when he left Jackson State, right? Like, I never watched an FCS football game before I watched Jackson State.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
I'm gonna keep that sounds terrible, but I didn't know anything about it because they never broadcast the games locally. Now they broadcast 2 on ESPN every year, right? And now they're getting national exposure. So I like Keegan's point. I just don't know if it would be monumental, but I'm like, you made it 2 years. You're in your 50s. All 3 kids are going to make it through college. What is that? What else do you have to do? It's like LeVar Ball. All the kids are made to the NBA. Now what?
I feel like his standard and his approach and his philosophies would be a lot more easier to translate at an NFL level. You have to understand, you're dealing with a bunch of college kids, and these are kids that are young, immature. Obviously, some of them are there for the money and the capitalization of the names, image, and likeness. They're not really focused on the task at hand. So that's a lot of things that you have to juggle as a coach. And I think when you get to the professional level, obviously money is a factor, but really it is about winning Super Bowls. Really it is about buying into the culture and being able to, make it to the postseason and be able to go in and play in January. So I really think, especially Dallas right now in the current state that they are, and we can get into that another time, I know that they're going to be good this year. I think they'll be a great team. I think they'll be all right coming out of the NFC East. But going into the future, man, Dak Prescott's contract's up. If it doesn't work out, what do you do with Mike McCarthy? And I think that just imposes a lot of questions, and I think it makes sense at the end of the day. So I really do see them making a run for Shedeur in the draft, and I would not be surprised if they end up reaching out to Dion and asking him to coach in some capacity.
That's actually not a bad take.
So switching now that we switched to the NFL a bit, I do want to get to that topic, but before we close out on college football, what do you guys feel is the top 12 teams that will be in the playoffs?
I can't do that right now.
Yeah, it's way too early.
That's like me asking who's going to win the
a prediction. Give me your top 4 then. Give me your semifinalists. Give me a top 4.
Well, you just asked me top. So buys, who I think will be a top 4 at the end of the season.
No, I just want you. I want you to give me who would be in these semifinals. Playing like who is your top 4?
I don't know yet.
Just right off, just based off of last year. You can't do it.
No, because Harbaugh's
I give you
gone.
4 off the top.
Nick's gone.
Okay, so if I'm going to rip off 4 teams that, like, off the top of my head, if Michigan's gone, I'd go Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, and I can't even name the 4th team. It'd be an SEC team.
I got something. I got something for you.
If you tell me Colorado's top 4 team, I'm going to smack you in the face.
Texas. I'm going to say Texas putting in.
Yeah, I'm out on that one. I bet they're under 500.
I don't know. Hold on. Listen. Hear me out. Because that's the only. I'm in Oklahoma, so I know a lot of Sooner fans are going to be like, ew. No. Just hear me out. Texas. I'm going to also say Oregon. Definitely a top 10. Yeah, top 4. Elite. Come on now, because like
that Dylan Gabriel connection. Yeah.
Yes.
I thought you hated Oregon. Now you're with Oregon?
No, I'm not. I hate Oregon.
Why put them in your top 4?
I'm putting it. I'm being.
This is might be telling Auburn's going to be in top 4.
My opinion, top 4. I'm going to say Texas and Oregon. And then I'm definitely I can't cross Ohio State out of the question, especially with how
your first good pick so far, logical pick.
Okay, and then I'm going to definitely say.
See,
I would definitely want. I want to say Alabama because it's going to either be Alabama or Georgia out of that 4th spot.
You put
definitely out of.
I think Texas regresses this year.
I don't think so, bro. I think how they played this year, like
I'll say this why. They lost their 2 best receivers in A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy. They're gone. You lost your 2 best defense interior linemen, Devondre Sweat, goodbye. Byron Murphy, goodbye. You lost 2 corners. You lost Terrence Brooks. I forget who else they lost. One other corner defensive back guy. Anyway, not important. I feel like, and you know this as an Oklahoma fan, the most important game of the year is Red River Rivalry. Mm-hmm. That's the most important game of the year. It doesn't matter what you play in the postseason. It doesn't matter if you beat Texas, you've won the season.
Yeah.
To me, I feel like Texas loses it again, and they lose 2 more games. Remember, they got to play Georgia. They got to play Mizzou. It's going to be a gauntlet. Like, they could be 3-loss team by the end of October. I'm like, well, they play. It's just like the NBA. They play 2 teams, and you're like, well, I told you, man. I don't know if they're ready.
Oklahoma and Texas right now, and this is just me watching the SEC every single year. I'm going to tell you right now, kids, it's not like the Big 12. Unlike the Big 12, we have defense. Unlike the Big 12, we have top talent. You don't see a defensive player coming out of the Big 12 into the draft being a first overall pick. We do that in our sleep as far as the SEC goes. That's a wheelhouse. I think as far as the talent goes, Texas has it. And obviously, they're in a very hot recruitment bed. Hence why they made the transition to the SEC in the first place. Same goes for Oklahoma. At the end of the day, man, it's really hard. It's really hard for me to see them winning more than 6 or 7 games.
I'll give you the perfect scenario, Keegan. They play Kansas, right?
Yeah.
And then next we got to play Tennessee on the road.
Yep.
Then you come home and you've got to play Oklahoma.
Yep.
And then you have to go on the road and you got to play Auburn. So right now you're already gassed. You've been gassed for 4 weeks in a row. You are on fumes right now. You're on backups right now, right? And then guess what? Alabama comes to town. You're like, oh shit! Now you got to play the best team in college football. So you've been gassed the entire month, and you've had no idle period. There's no off period. You can't go, hey, I want to take a week off. No. Idle period ain't for 4 weeks.
Yeah, I'm gonna say maybe 3-2 in that 5-game stretch, but 2-3 is looking more feasible. Yeah.
Now, if they win all 5, best team in college football.
You guys don't have a top 4. It's too early for you guys, right?
Give me till the end of September.
I'll give you 2 sleepers if that makes you happy.
No, please do.
All right, I'll give you 2 sleepers. One of them, I know it's going to be biased, but watch out for Missouri because they're recruiting.
That's not biased. That's a realistic opinion.
Over the duration of the past 2 seasons, albeit they played the deaf and blind of Ohio State's depth chart, and they didn't really get to give a look against guys like Harrison, and I think their quarterback had entered the transfer portal at that point. Nevertheless, you didn't have any of your starting pieces to really get a look of how you really were and how you had matured as a team throughout the season. But just look at their body of work over last year and how it translates over to this year. Obviously, you lose guys like Chris Abrams-Drain. You lose Robinson to the draft. You still retain pieces like Luther Burden, who, in my opinion, next to Marvin Harrison, was the second best receiver in last year. And I think the proof is in the pudding. I think Luther Burden's going to have a breakout season. And I honestly think his stock's going to rise. Brady Cook's a great quarterback. You lose Schrader as well. I don't see a lot of teams. Typically, I make fun of Missouri. I'm their biggest critic. But this year, I got to buy in stock. I think Missouri's going to be one of those teams to watch heading down the stretch. And then my second team, I'm going to stick within the SEC. I don't think they're really getting talked about much. Maybe I'm missing it a little bit. But I think, well, actually, they are getting talked about. Let me retract that. I'm not going to say them. Now this is good. I'll say Clemson. There we go. I think over the duration of last year, it was kind of off and on. It wasn't the normal Dabo Sweeney year that we were used to seeing. Everybody was kind of calling Dabo out. I think this is a year that he can kind of make a comeback and kind of silence the critics. We'll see how he does in the ACC.
You want to silence the critics? Beat Georgia week 1.
That's going to be a tough one.
You want to go sleeper team? You beat the big bad bullies across the street from you. You talking business. You can't beat them. We're not talking business.
That's a good point.
All righty. You say give you until September. All right, I will. All right, so guys.
You can ask me actually, I'll give you a better date. I'll give you the first week of October because that way we start our conference play, and I will know who my team is during conference play.
Gotcha.
Wake me up when September ends.
Yes. Wake me up when it starts getting cold outside again.
Let's wrap this up. We got one more segment, and it's going to be something quick because it's just really, NFL's in its off season. Now, guys, based on everything that's transpired, all the draft's over with. I do want you guys' opinions on everything, but this topic of the day is: does Justin Jefferson deserve the massive contract that the Minnesota Vikings just pulled out of their ass?
Hell no. Hell no. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, let me give you a little bit of background. Stanford grad who was the first of his type to come out and be a general manager as a data scientist with no professional football experience previous. He was an intern for a slew of different teams. So everything he's done has been predicated off of Moneyball work. He's a very great statistician. He's a historian of the game. He knows his numbers. I learned a little bit more about him when I was interning with Pro Football Focus back in the day. I know about Kwesi. I know about his IQ. A smart guy when it comes to football, but he missed on this one. And the reason I say he missed is because, albeit he was a top 3 receiver in 2022, 2023, he was barely on the field. What the hell makes you think you're worthy of that much? You haven't even taken your team to past the first round of the postseason, let alone win a division. So what in your mind thinks that you're worth $110 million guaranteed with $140 million in incentives over the duration of 4 years? I can tell you that Addison, TJ Hawkinson, guys on that team are just as important and integral roles to the Vikings' performance. And the NFC North is going to be interesting to watch this year with the Bears getting Caleb Williams, obviously the Lions' success, who is my favorite to win the division, and then the Green Bay Packers. I think the Vikings are the laughingstock, and they probably finish last. If Caleb Williams can slightly turn around just a little bit, Vikings are my favorite to finish last. And I think Kwesi could be in the hot seat in the coming months, maybe even over the duration of the next couple of years. I think this is a horrible move, considering the lack of what Justin Jefferson has done to prove himself over the span of the past couple of years. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
He came with the punch. I guess I don't disagree with that. I will say that I've been watching I think it's the 4th receiver to get a max contract. So Jalen Waddle, wide receiver 2, gets his max contract. Michael Pittman, wide receiver 2, gets his max contract in Indy. I think I don't really have any pushback. I think they are banking on him being healthy. Mm-hmm. And if Justin Jefferson's healthy and JJ McCarthy's got a weapon, Vikings are good. If they don't do shit, and like you said, they crap the bed, and JJ McCarthy turns out to be like what Justin Fields was last year and didn't do anything productive, and he just ran the football for 85% of the time. I mean, the Vikings right now are becoming the Lions, the laughingstock. The Vikings were not good last year. They were a win-loss, 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 loss-loss team. And so I think I don't even know how to describe this. I feel like the NFL now, the value proposition is kind of like how my Falcons like Kirk Cousins. You're taking a gamble. If he performs great, he's worth all the cash in the world. If he gets injured or he doesn't play, you're wasting a $45 million cap hit on a guy who's not even there. He's not in practice. He's not on the field. He's in the training room, right? Yeah. So I agree, but I also feel like he's been in the league for a hot minute. His boy Jamar Chase is looking for a contract. I think this is the year of the wide receiver getting the contract. That's a lot of money to pay for a guy to simply run routes. I would agree. That's a lot of fucking money.
Nah, but like in my opinion, when it comes to JJ in particular, in the position that the Minnesota Vikings are in, with their quarterback position still being in question, that is not the most smartest move. Now, I'm not saying JJ's not deserving. You put him on a roster where he has a slinger. You put him on a roster that he has a solid quarterback, and they're looking to make a title run, and you're trying to retain pieces, and you want to make sure JJ's here. Yeah. In a roster that makes sense, it's a great move. You give Tua another weapon. Like if it was before Tyreek and JJ's down there with Tua, that's a great option. You give let's go with another slinger, in my personal opinion. People hate on him, and I was giving him shit. Broad Purdy, he can throw the arm a little bit. You know what I mean? Give him another weapon. You see what he did with Debo. You see what he
Jordan
did with
Love.
You know what I mean? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, give him a person who can actually throw the ball. And JJ getting that contract makes a whole lot of sense. But when your quarterback position is in question, you don't have no one who can pound the yardage in your running back position at all. So you're just like, you don't have it. Who's going to get the ball to you? That's the question mark of it. You don't have no one who can punch the yardage and get you early. You get some action because our run game is good. I don't see spending $140 million on a player and 110 guaranteed when my quarterback and running back positions and potentially my offensive line is in question.
I'll say this. They don't have the worst quarterback in that division. It's Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is the next Jamarcus Russell. J.J. McCarthy, you look at his – no, 1,000%. He is the next Jamarcus Russell. He got benched at training camp the other day, guys. He threw 7 interceptions, and Eberflus is like, you know what? I'm done. Go sit down. Take a blow. You haven't heard about that from McCarthy's camp, but McCarthy won 3 state championships with IMG Academy. He also went on to win a national championship with Michigan. And albeit he's only lost, one game over the span of the past 3 seasons he started at Michigan, people could argue, they took him out early because they were running up the score on teams. Valid, but that also means he's doing his job, and he's making the passes that he needs to. What does that say about going into Josh McCown's system? He grew up with Josh McCown, believe it or not. He actually coached him in high school. So there's a little bit of a connection there as far as Josh McCown's relationship. I believe he was in hockey, I think, is where they kind of cultivated their relationship. I'm not worried about J.J. McCarthy going into this season. I really think that connection is going to be fun to watch. I think it's taken a lot of a guy like Justin Jefferson because of the fact he's had his injury history, and he's only been a top 3 receiver once in his career. He hasn't eclipsed anything, but maybe since he's the veteran, maybe since he's the older guy, they put a little bit more promise into that.
You want me to put you on a wild take? You want me to know what Justin Jefferson reminds me of?
Yeah,
like the same situation. Let's see here, an early Odell Beckham Jr. at New York.
That's not bad. That's not bad. I just don't want to see
I feel like that's the position he's in. Like how New York was operating with Odell. You had an aging Eli Manning who couldn't sling the ball worth a damn, and then you had maybe Victor Cruz who was still on his downslide because he had one pop-up moment in the Super Bowl. Like you didn't have very much going for that Giants team.
Yeah. I hope that he's not one of those people that migrates a lot. And if I may, just real quick, because this is such an important and sentimental topic to me as a Broncos fan, Cortland Sutton is asking $15 million a season, and albeit the Denver Broncos have a lot of depth right now at the receiver position, things like this is what deviates or stalls, for that matter, for, I guess, lack of a better word, it's what stalls the conversations between the team and the player when a player like JJ says, you know what, I want X amount of dollars over the duration of 3 or 4 seasons. That just makes it even more difficult for teams like the Denver Broncos to facilitate a deal. And our next one, we're talking about the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, they got 2 receivers that are needing a deal done of some sort, and I don't know if they'll be able to get it done because of this. So
I'm gonna finish this off with this take. Justin Jefferson gives me Michael Thomas vibes from the Saints.
That's an even better one. That's really good.
Michael Thomas, in his career, started with the Saints, was a slant king. He got paid the most money by any Saints receiver ever in franchise history. What happens? He can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
He gets put on the Madden cover, right? He becomes the greatest receiver. He had the Mike Evans treatment his first 3 years in New Orleans, right?
He did.
Tall, lanky receiver who's basically racking up a $1,500 a year, right? What happens? Gets paid a max contract. We haven't heard from him since. No. It's been 5 years. This man's 29 years old. He's not played a healthy season since 2019. He got paid a max contract in 2019 before the pandemic.
That's crazy.
And he was the best receiver in the NFC South, and I'm a Falcons fan. I hated playing against him. He was tall. He was what our version of Julio Jones was. He just drove you fucking nuts. He would piss you off. He would get yards after you get yak. He would bulldoze your guys. He would burn your cornerbacks. He'd get them traded. Like, he was the reason why people hated playing against you. So in 2016, when we made the Super Bowl, we're throwing fucking – it was old Julio Jones at that time. I was like, yeah. Like, I actually is fucking playing football. We made a white quarterback look like he was good for once in his career. He's been here for fucking 8 years. Let's go. But no, that's – to Justin Jefferson, if you're watching this, you're a great player. Stay fucking healthy. If you can stay healthy – you're great. If you can't, I don't want to hear you say a lick of shit the next 2 years.
Yeah, like that's where I end off at. It's just like I feel like right at this very moment, if there's he can either go down as one of the greatest wide receivers of all time and showing that the worth.
Don't even put him in the conversation.
No, like the worth is there by performing. Hear me. Let me finish.
That's the kiss of death right there. Or he could
go down as another has-been.
You were digging yourself a rabbit hole right now.
Hammer the trade now. Justin Jefferson's going to get, by his second year, he's going to get traded to some other team.
So watch him sign a mass contract and then get shipped off to Detroit.
I would say I'll do it even better. I'll sweeten that. I agree. I feel like if I don't see.
What were you I want to know what you were originally about to say because you switched thoughts.
I was going to say a year. I was going to say after this year, like if he doesn't prove anything after this max deal is in question, not even 2 years. Fuck. Like I feel like you get all this money and then you still end up folding the back. I don't know, man. Like at this point, something's in question.
There once was a time where back in the day it was.
I feel like it's going to be a Russell Wilson situation. Just in the wide receiver position.
Oh, there we go. Incite the riot. No, it used to be the running backs where we would say if they received a second. Ezekiel Elliott is a perfect example of this. Second contract running backs never work out, and now I think we're gradually seeing that trend transition over to the receivers, and it just makes me wonder. Who's going to stick out amongst those guys? Because as you said, Jamar Chase is going to be getting his second contract. Deebo Samuel just received his second contract, and now all of a sudden we're talking about him wanting out at San Francisco. And then, obviously, Brandon Ayuk in that situation. But even guys like A.J. Brown going to Philly and everything, it's so crazy how things have changed with the market. And thanks, inflation, really is all I got to say. It's just crazy how contracts and the market have changed and have ultimately changed the mentality and behavior.
But yeah, all right. But I feel like we spoke enough on these topics, fellas. I don't have anything else to really say. All I can say on the wrap up is that he has until the end of this year to really prove anything. Because if not, we're gonna hear it after this year.
I wouldn't even say this year. Give him like the first 8 games of the season. Yeah, like you better be put up 100 yards a game.
You gotta be for that type of.
You got a quarterback, you got a running back, like you got an offensive line. They're not like Minnesota's not like a freaking or Chicago where we're like they're gonna win 5 games. Like Minnesota actually has a decent team. Like they're not trash. They just needed a quarterback.
Who wins the NFC North this year? Who do you think?
There's only one answer to that question.
You think Detroit?
The only team that's coming back is Detroit. Detroit's hungry for blood. They were one fucking play away from the Super Bowl.
Lions too.
I think
nasty.
I think Green Bay gives them a run for their money, though. Like I don't think it'll be easy.
People were sleeping on Jordan Love last year.
I'm not saying a huge Green Bay fan, but I'm a huge Josh Jacobs fan because he comes out of McLean.
You're a Seahawks fan. Let's keep it real.
I'm always a Seahawks fan, but Josh Jacobs, I actually played. I told you in the last thing, I played against Josh Jacobs in my high school days. McLean High School, Tulsa, Oklahoma. He was a monster.
You played against Josh Jacobs in high school?
Yes, McLean High School is where he's from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hell, I seen him up and down
I know where he's
not
from.
too long ago.
So you recruited to Alabama.
When did you graduate high school?
I graduated high school in 2016, bud.
I didn't know that.
Yes, sir.
You graduated in 2015. Okay, never mind. I was like, Josh Jacobs was a freshman.
2016 is my graduation.
I didn't see that. Yeah.
Jeez.
Graduate.
But
so I guess
that's all I gotta say.
Thanks for making me feel old shit. Appreciate that.
If it makes you feel any better, my graduation year was 2018, even though it looks like it was 2022.
I'm 2014. That makes me feel even worse.
All right.
I
appreciate you guys staying tuned to the podcast. That's all we have. We will definitely be back next week. If Keegan wants to join back up, he's more than welcome. Connor will be here. It was a pleasure speaking with you guys this week. We'll be back.
Yes, sir.
See you guys.